Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we are featuring the Worcester, and the only reason why I am playing the Worcester right now is because Potato Quality, who is he's a PC player. I'm not too sure if he's CC. I think he was debating it or not. I haven't really seen if he's confirmed it or not. But he posted a video on the Worcester on PC, and it looked like a ton of fun. And I was like, man, I want to have fun in a Worcester. I have a Worcester on PC or on the console version, Legends. So I was like, you know what? I'll play Worcester. And I was reminded why I don't for the most part, even though we have a really, really good game. I mean, base XP wise, this might be my best game in the Worcester. It ends up being right around almost 4,500 base XP. So a really good game, but we play really, really sloppy and make really bad decisions at the end of the game. And it was so close to being just not a good game. I mean, when I think about people throwing games, we gave a really good shot here. I mean, at the end of this game, we play it pretty well at the beginning and almost just nuke the entire thing and just lose. And my team goes with me, or whatever's left of my team at the end pretty much makes the same decision as me, and we almost just fall flat on our face. Anyways, the Worcester in Legends, this ship is something that just never really pulls toward me. When I get on Legend, Worcester is never a ship that's like, oh yeah, let me get on. I want to play the Worcester. And I think the reason why that is because of how neutered it is compared to the PC version. There's a lot of significant differences that might seem pretty small, but for the most part, Worcester's main gimmick is basically the AA, and with how scarce carriers are, which honestly isn't a bad thing. You know, I do not like carriers. I don't think that's a big, shock. But Worcester's AA, especially in Legends, is definitely its biggest, advantage. And for the most part, the reason for that is the long-range AA starts shooting at 6.2 kilometers, which is really, really good. And it has really good DPM for the long range as well. And that's stock. I'm not running any sort of AA. I'm not running defensive fire. I'm running the sonar. And still the AA is really, really good. I mean, you can almost guarantee to at least kill the full squadron. The people will get strikes off for sure. But that's stock. If you're running a full AA build, the AA DPM and the range can reach out to about 8 kilometers with the long-range DPM, or the long-range AA. The AA is pretty nuts. The only problem is, like I said, carriers are almost, I would say they're pretty rare. Obviously, when making this was, I think, before the Implacable released, so there will be an influx of more carriers, at least right now at Tier 7, because people are going to be grinding for the new carrier and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you'll probably be like, oh, whatever, Chili, like I just got into like so many carrier games, which I get, I understand. But for me, carriers are almost the rarest ship I see in games, unless I'm playing like Tier 5, which I don't really do very often, to be honest. Lowest I go for the most part is Tier 6 or so. I just think the ships are more fun at high tiers. Oh man, anyways, but the Worcester on Legends. So I'm going to be comparing it to PC a little bit. PC has a faster reload. It's like 4.6, 4.5 second stock reload. PC also gets access to the reload mod, and it has a skill called Adrenaline Rush, which we do have here, but it's mainly for destroyers, or it's only on destroyer captains. And Worcester's reload on PC can easily get down into the high 3-second reloads. Now the Worcester here on Legends doesn't have a slow reload. It's just nothing that we haven't seen before, and it was slower than Cleveland's. Cleveland did get nerfed. It does have a 5.5-second stock reload now, so it has a slightly, I believe, a slightly faster reload now, which is good because it is legendary and Cleveland's Tier 6. However, there's two things that don't make sense to me. Cleveland has more HE alpha by about 100 damage, which isn't amazing. It's not, a lot. But it also has more fire chance. I can't remember the stock fire chance for Worcester, but I believe it is 2% lower than Cleveland's. So that really, really hurts you with the HE alpha and the fire chance when you do pick EOP. And it's just weird because Cleveland was so dominant for so long, and then you get Worcester, and it's just like, it's a tier higher, but it feels worse. Another thing that is iffy about the Worcester is how big of a ship it is. It's very easy to Citadel. Much easier to Citadel than Cleveland, in my opinion. And the turret layout is really, really dangerous. And you're going to see that later on in this game when we have to 1v1 a full health Alaska. Well, he's like 75% health. And we get a bunch of help. But still, Alaska eats Worcester for breakfast. There is no doubts about that. But the turret, how the layout is, most of the time, if you are stuck bow into somebody, you are shooting 2 or 3 turrets. And at tier 7 or legendary tier, being able to shoot worse Cleveland guns and only half of them is not a fun time. You are not going to get much of anything done if you're only shooting the front 2 turrets at anything. Destroyers, cruisers, battleships, it is just like, it is almost impossible to get anything done with these front 2 turrets. Now, the biggest thing, like I said for Worcester, is the AA. And the biggest thing on PC for Worcester, I believe, is that a lot of people call it the Swiss Army knife because it has access to the sonar, the radar, the heal, and also DFAA. I hate in Legends how if you want to spec defensive fire, you have to lose sonar. I hate that because losing sonar is big. Sonar, while it's not crazy, it is really, really nice. Sonar is one of those things that you always want to have in your back pocket. I feel like sonar is very, very undervalued. And there has been so many times where I pick Worcester or I pick defensive fire and I don't get in a carrier game. Now, obviously, you can guarantee getting into a carrier game if you want to division with a carrier, but I don't have many friends that actively want to play carriers. Other than Tactic, if he's feeling like he wants to be that guy, which can happen occasionally. But if you're not in a carrier game and you pick defensive AA, you just are completely flat out of luck. You don't even, there's nothing you can do. You just lost out on all that utility that sonar gives you, and you gained nothing in return. I hate this. I don't know how they would fix this or whatever, or what they would change or what they would add to the buttons, but this just takes away so much from me in the Worcester, because when you can't, like on PC, it's so good because it just has access to tons of things. And here, it just feels very, very dumbed down, and I'm going to even say that with the bow armor. So if you don't know, on PC, Worcester, I believe, has the standard 25mm bow and stern, which gets overmatched by literally everything in like battleships. On Legends, they decided, like you all know, to give it the 32mm bow and stern. I think this is horrible because, for the most part, I think that after giving Worcester the 32mm bow and stern battleship armor, aka, they said, okay, that's all the buffs it needs, it'll do fine. And while I agree the 32mm bow and stern can be cheeky, a ship like Worcester and a ship that does good behind islands like the USN light cruisers, you don't need to be bow tanking battleships with your bow. If you're forced, like if you're bow tanking in a USN light cruiser, you're either in a really bad spot or you're absolutely forced to. And that's the last place you want to be. I have no idea why they gave Worcester this armor. I would rather them take the armor away from the bow and stern and give it a faster reload, give it defensive fire on top of the sonar, something like that. It just feels so dumb for a USN light cruiser like this to have bow armor like that. It just doesn't make sense. Like, half of the skill gap with the USN light cruisers is positioning and knowing when and when not to push out and knowing how to use islands to your advantage, because that's what they excel at. They have high firing arcs and they're very lightly armored. But they just kind of just like pooped all over that and said, nah, let's just screw it. Let's just give it battleship-esque armor. And it just feels dumb. Feels dumb. And here in this game, it's gone pretty south. We're not really in the best spot here, but I will say we could easily win this game if we just ran and played defensively. We would only need 2 caps in this game to win because we are ahead by quite a bit, and I feel like we could chip down this Alaska if we played. But we went in front of this island here, and that is going to prove almost fatal, because this means that I am close enough to the Alaska where I do not want to risk turning out, because I don't know if he's loaded. There's also a Shimakaze, full health by the way, and this is the beginning of what looks like the most potato throw ever. And like I said about being stuck bow in against targets that you can't get broadside to, we're now stuck bow in against an Alaska with improved penetration angles, knowing how to shoot AP, and a Shima who is cross-torping us with his torpedoes. This is the last place you want to be in a Worcester, because if it weren't for this DD here, who is going to actually get a really clutch torpedo hit, this game is easily lost, and it is just not a fun time. Now, like I said, we're stuck bowing here, and our DPM is so bad. I mean, it is so bad. You know, we're getting 1,000 here, 1,000 there, 2,000 here, and it's just not a fun time. And this is where I make the decision to cut wide, and this is really actually just a misplay on my part. I wanted to cut wide, but he kept steaming forwarding, and he's turning into me. What I wanted to do was cut around wide and then turn into him, but he knew exactly what I was doing and gets around on us and actually gets us in the broadside, which I'm actually very lucky that I didn't die there. I don't know how I'm still alive. I'm assuming it was just very unfortunate for him. But once I realized what was going on, I was like, oh crap. So what I'm doing here is I'm turning the other way because he's going behind me, and now I caught him at a T, which was perfect because as soon as I look around, his back turrets are firing, but we are angled and we actually get the bounce. So it works out. We somehow, their Shima is trying to throw just as hard as we are. We've lost the destroyer. It's getting ugly. This was a pretty easy defensive win in my opinion, but we just went for it. Don't do this at home. If I was watching this as someone who had died and I'm watching my team do this, I'd be like, oh my god, we're actually going to lose this game. And notice how angled I am against this Alaska, and notice how much damage we take. Like I'm saying, like Alaska is not the ship you want to be fighting against in the Worcester. Like Alaska can just dump on you, because if you're able to get your guns firing, his AP will be able to pin and citadel you as easy as like slicing butter with a hot knife. But we pulled this out. This was very sloppy. We ended up getting a really good score, but overall we made one bad decision in that game, which was to cut in, and it almost cost us. And I'm lucky we got to get out of this game with the score that we did. But this is probably my last Worcester video or game that I play in a long time, just because there's nothing that the Worcester does that something doesn't do better. And it feels just very lackluster. It feels decent at a lot of things, but, you know, just not. I would rather play Cleveland or Mines or whatever if I'm going to play like this. But anyways, guys, this is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think about the Worcester and Legends, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.